Have you ever felt the call to dive deeper into your own self-discovery spiritually? Or wondering, are you living your aligned, true purpose? So many of us grapple with finding clarity or navigating our own inner struggles, and then wonder how we embrace our own unique path that we're meant to walk. Today's guest, Ryan Magic, is here to illuminate that journey as a transformational coach, meditation advocate, and a creator of the Heart's Prayer. Ryan has dedicated his life to helping others uncover their inner truth and step into their most empowered selves. In this episode, Ryan shares profound insights on self-awareness, spiritual growth, and finding fulfillment in our present moment. From practical tools to heart-centered truths, get ready for an inspiring conversation that might just change the way you see yourself and life. Welcome aboard The Nichole Show with host Nichole Hamilton. Our task is to educate, empower, and change lives. Join us for stories of resilience and rebirth. Honest talks that inspire and challenge you. Are you ready to make a move? It begins now. Welcome back, guys, to The Nichole Show. And in today's podcast, I'm super excited. I actually have a little bit of nervous energy. I have my beautiful friend, mentor, coach, Ryan Magic. I have known him for many years, and I guess the best way to describe the connection, it's a really heartfelt connection. Before you introduce yourself, Ryan, I just want to say the biggest thing that I inspire, and I was feeling the drop-ins before I came here, was that you lead with your heart and you model to me to be authentically myself. And it's the biggest thing that captured me, your energy, your authenticity on socials as a coach. And it's one of your biggest strengths. So thank you so much for being that permission slip. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll give you the floor to my beautiful podcast listeners to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I really can feel your big, beautiful heart in this moment. And yeah, you've meant a lot to me on my path as well, Nichole. We've shared such a cool intertwining of our lives over the last few years. So it's really cool to get to have a chat and drop in together after I've been on my little pilgrimage. And this podcast is now 6 months in. Beautiful. Yeah, it's an honor to be here. So, and I was saying to you before we got on, can you introduce me? Because I don't know how to introduce myself. But yeah, I pretty much live to help people connect to their authentic selves so that they can live their most fulfilled lives. And I'm very, very passionate about that. It seems and sounds very simple. Fulfillment. It's a simple idea to live with fulfillment, but it's very subjective as to what that can mean to live with fulfillment. And I've got a bit of a nuanced idea of what that means, and I'm just very passionate about helping people connect to an innate sense of wholeness in who they are for no good reason. And there's lots of different ways that I support people to do that. Meditation, breath work. I've got my own healing modality. I've got my own way that I see the universe. Yeah.
And it's changed so much from when I, did first meet you. When I first met you through, a mutual friend and saw you on socials, you're very passionate, very coaching, very business minded, which have all those skills, a very strong masculine energy, very safe, and integrating both those soft and strong sides. But yeah, what is always connected me to you is that heart, like that big, courageous, loving heart. And I'd love you to describe a little bit of your modality and the it started off as heart warriors and it's progressed, but for me that is, I guess, one of the hugest connection pieces that you gift to others that I've seen work miraculous ways and healings with me and many other friends and coaches that I know. So yeah, explain a little bit about that fulfillment and what it means to you.
Yeah.
It's really powerful for our listeners to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in a snapshot, I want to pre-frame by saying that it's a big idea, and uh, it's one that, as you're listening to this, I just encourage you to do your best to sit with it as I'm sharing and not necessarily expect yourself to need to get it. Although I know a lot of you will be quite advanced on the journey and will probably get a feel for what I'm saying. But essentially, the way that I see the world is that we can be in one of two consciousness states in any moment. We can be in freedom consciousness. Yeah, I also call that the heart, or we can be in fear consciousness. I also call that the head. And that state of being in the head or fear consciousness, for most people, is the way that they are in every single moment for their lives, their entire life and their journey. And what that is a state of the part of their brain that's leading the show is one of that's been ruled by the nervous system being dysregulated.
Yeah.
And so people are constantly in this reactive loop and have a series of different ways to stay in that reactive loop. There's addictive tendencies which they can have, which could be busyness, it could be cleaning, it could be coffee, sugar, overeating, scrolling on social media, Netflix, just busyness. There's personality patterns that people can do to stay caught in that reactive loop. Personality patterns like trying to achieve, so constantly trying to find the next thing, or always trying to seem different, or trying to be in control and be in charge. And the combination of these different addictive strategies and tendencies and different personality patterns are essentially ways that people will be disconnected from the present moment. And so that even though when I say fear consciousness, people think of fear as this state where they're in a fetal position, rocking in the corner of a house because someone's trying to break in, or they're terrified because some big scary thing's happening. On a much more accurate and nuanced level, fear consciousness is simply not being in the present moment
Mm.
because they're caught up with some kind of reactive, distracting way to disconnect from their being in that moment. And that's why when people can let go of those reactive patterns, they can be in presence and actually hear, recognizing they're alive and have free will to choose how they want to navigate their lives. Most people are in a bit of they're disconnected from that. So they're not getting to soak in the beauty of life.
Yeah, wow. I've actually never heard you explain it that way. I know the head and heart modality and the rest, but yeah, that's some beautiful drop-ins there. Thank you for sharing.
You're
Um,
welcome.
just for me and where my processing wanted to take it as wow, like this is literally what we're teaching our youth, you know, um, to be in that distracted mode. Like fear, like you said, doesn't have to be like some big massive, problem or challenge or something that's super scary. It's actually a modality that we're jumping into at all times for distraction, for disconnection. And it's something that, yeah, pre-framed that way is so beautiful to realize we're not living at our fullest. We're not being in that loving state, in that present state. Yeah, so if
Yeah. It's a loaded question, right? Like I kind of just went, boop, this is the thing, but we could unpack it more if that would be supportive.
I just think it's really, really beautiful to hear it in that way because
Mm.
most times you think, oh yeah, I'm dysregulated because this situation or that, but no, it's actually something that we are all conditioned to jump into those coping strategies every single day and relearning to make the time to do the things that can get us out of those, whether it's
Yeah.
meditation, breath, or grounding, or all the free things in life that we can do. It's just, again, for the majority of people maybe listening, something that's not recognized.
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult if we don't even have awareness of what's happening. And that's the predicament. of being in fear consciousness is that you don't know that you're in there. So if someone wakes up in the morning and they've got a habitual feeling of like a little bit of agitation or busyness or stress or subtle anxiety, and then they naturally put their hand over, turn off the alarm because they've woken up a little bit earlier than what their body needed the rest for. So already they're not fully healthy. They're already like putting themselves in an energy deficit. They've got less, they haven't given themselves the rest that their body knows that they need to stay regulated. Then maybe they reach across and grab their phone, and then boom, already fear consciousness has taken over. And then from the addictive scrolling, then it's going to be like, okay, cool. What else can I do to stay in that reactive loop? And maybe it's going, what can I eat? Oh, I need a little bit of sugar, or I haven't had my coffee. And they grab the coffee, and then one thing leads to the next. And then the entire day is chasing one's tail in this disconnected, unfulfilling experience of life. Even if the boxes are being ticked and they're doing the things that they are told they should do, if we can't be there to really live in and know that we're here and we're alive and we don't have that awareness, that is what I would say is fear consciousness. And that's what the Bible would actually say is hell.
Yeah, it is a living hell where we're in those places and spaces, and sometimes we don't realize it. I'd love to know when you've been in your personal development journey for a really long time, and you've learned many modalities. When did you realize it was? And I know that this is a loaded question as well. Like that simple, like like
Yeah.
everything we're doing is in a fear based. Like when did this kind of realization happen for you to realize that the fear in the head? Like how did you? I'd love to know, like, how did
Yeah.
you,
I,
how did you
yeah.
that?
Yeah. Uh, I think I was doing, well, I actually downloaded this idea before I actually was able to see all the ways in which other modalities, traditions, theologies, religions point to the same truths. I just kind of like cognized, I'm either in my heart or in my head. And then I kind of started to, then the more that I learned other modalities, let's say nervous system work, I went, the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, that's when we're regulated and our prefrontal cortex is on. So we have the ability to critically think and have access to our intuition. And when we're in our amygdala and the prefrontal cortex shuts down and we go into the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, then we disconnect from presence. Our brain doesn't even have the capacity to have awareness because it just shuts down and goes into automatic stress responses and fear responses. And I went, that's head and heart. And then learned, let's say, about uh, Muji through meditation and spirituality, who's a spiritual thought leader that talks about the mind, the busyness of the mind and mind attacks. And if you want to find freedom, you need to be able to transcend the mind and be in the present moment. And that's freedom. And I went, that's head and heart as well. And then it's just like modality after modality, internal family systems, connect to your higher self and then play with your parts. Parts are the head strategies, and then the higher self is the heart. There's another one. And it's just like everywhere I looked over the last 5 years since kind of like unearthing these truths, it was like, yeah, the Bible, kingdom of heaven, access to the present moment, hell, being like the 7 deadly sins. If you think about the 7 deadly sins and it's gluttony, okay, cool. What happens when you overeat? Well, you get stuck back in the head, back into fear consciousness. The devil has tempted you, and now you're in hell because you're completely disconnected now. And you're doomed to a reality that's filled with suffering, eternal suffering. Whereas if you're connected to the kingdom of heaven, you're connected to oneness, which is what I call the heart, which is timeless love and presence. Again, another one, head and heart. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's just everywhere.
I really feel that, and it's helping me because even though I do try and practice to be from my heart, there's always things that get me into my head, and it's just a really beautiful way to remember to tap into it more. So I'd love to know.
Yeah.
My question it would be, how would you suggest to people to tap into their heart more,
Mhm.
especially for people that, this might be brand new to? Like, what are some of the ways that they can daily tap into their heart?
Yeah, sure. Well, I would say there is a few different approaches that you can take to be able to live with more freedom, with more fulfillment.
Mhm.
And because it is a journey, it's a very long journey to living with more of a continual sense of presence. It's a real journey. And that journey consists of a couple of key aspects to being more in the heart. One is being able to navigate the things that put you into your head,
Mhm.
put you into that fear consciousness, that trigger the fear consciousness. Like if I went downstairs and I ate a block of dairy milk chocolate Cadbury right now, I'd go straight back into ignorance, I would forget all these awareness points that I've had on this podcast and that I live my life by. And I would just forget. If I went on social media right now, I've got my phone here. If I went onto social media and scrolled for 15 minutes, just wherever the algorithm takes me, I would be completely kicked out of conscious awareness, and I'd be, the devil would take over, so to speak, and I would lose my connection to the kingdom of heaven. And so most people, where they're starting with their journey to presence, to their heart, to freedom, to fulfillment, there's a lot that's stacked against them, and it's very, very difficult. And so I would say the first thing that's really important is compassion, just understanding that it's a long-term journey to being able to live with this state of presence. It's not something that we do the right hack and boom, we've transcended this. This is the whole human experience, that it's a lifetime's effort to be able to continue to feel a more and more of a value towards living in this beautiful, fulfilling state. It takes a lot of pain, like enough pain, enough hardship. Sometimes people need to get hit with the cancer stick to be like, oh, I'm going to make a change and start eating healthier, and I've got to do a big identity shift and lifestyle shift. Sometimes someone has to have a divorce, or they need to try so hard to make it the money that they think is going to make them happy before their body just gives up on them and they go, I'm in so much pain that I need to try a new approach.
Mm.
And that's where people start looking often and actually start to value their well-being in amongst all those external little traps, ego traps that keep us stuck in the loop. So uh, that didn't really clearly answer the question, did it? But there's
No,
a few different
it
angles.
it does explain. Like, what I'm hearing is that, the awareness is the first point, because, everything that we're discussing here, like the, perhaps the bad eating, the scrolling, the things that we are using to basically cope or function in human life, because everybody else is doing the same. Having the awareness that that is taking us into those fear-based states, those head-based states, is
Yeah,
what is um, distracting us from our heart, from living from that place. And so
yeah,
what I'm getting out of that is just realizing that, that some of these things really do we need to have more education and awareness on, especially for me as the kids coach. Like, I think, where are these kids? The biggest thing that's coming up is the kids don't want to be at school, and they're so dysregulated. And it's
mm,
those smallest things that, if we have more education around, and their presence and their regulation and their whole well-being will shift. And it's some of these things that are totally free to change. And so,
yeah.
what do you think the easiest, or the again, that's probably a loaded question.
No,
What
it's a great question because it's definitely,
would be,
yeah,
for somebody listening to this going, oh my God, I'm scrolling too much. I'm addicted to that chocolate. Like, but I'm not really sure where to kind of go. Like, what would be some of the things that we can shift or change or be aware of in our homes, for ourselves?
yeah. So I would say if you're inspired to make a change in this area,
Mm.
the most powerful decision that you could make is to start practicing Vedic meditation or transcendental meditation or some kind of daily meditation practice. Because a lot of people think of meditation as, oh, I get into a Zen state and I get into a peaceful state. Meditation, the reason not many people meditate, even though every great thought leader says meditation is the most important thing, it's so difficult to practice because what happens is as soon as we create space, all the dysregulation, uncomfortable emotion, inner pain, mind chatter, stress comes to the surface to be processed.
Yeah.
And that processing allows the storm to clear and for us to then be naturally connected to the presence after the meditation practice. But people are 2-3 minutes in going, this, I can't stop my mind from thinking. This is so hard. Why am I doing this? I'm not good at meditation. Whereas they don't realize that meditation is like stepping on scales. The scales tell you what your weight and what your body is at, where your body is at. You don't get angry at the scale and say, you're not telling me the right number. But you just know it tells you where you're at. When you get into a meditation practice, it's reflecting back to you where your mind's at.
Mm.
But the cool thing about meditation is that when you start the practice and you get into it, it's not you doing it. It's very different to pretty much every other technique in the entire world, which is something that, let's say, for example, you want to lose weight, you go to the gym, you exercise. You want to get clients, you go and you start marketing and selling. There's a clear, disciplined action that can create a result. Whereas with meditation, it's not you doing it. And if someone learns Vedic meditation, transcendental meditation, it's a transcending technique. To transcend means to go beyond. So the very technique that you use transcends itself. You allow this very gentle internal mental mantra to forget itself, and then the whole practice has an intelligence of its own, and it naturally alchemizes and assimilates your stress. It dissolves the stress, which is very uncomfortable because a lot of the time you can either have a gratifying or an ungratifying meditation. If you are rocking up on the scales and it says you weigh 200 kilos, of course it's going to be hard to go to the gym initially because you've got all this backed up karma from unhealthy decisions from the past. If you rock up to your meditation, it's full of agitation and it's full of stress and thoughts. It's because you haven't been serving your soul. And just like stepping on and going, oh, yikes, maybe I have been eating a little bit too much for a while. Step into your meditation and go, oh, looks like I have been scrolling a lot, eating a lot of sugar. I've been overworking. Of course, it's my meditation's telling me this stress. And guess what? In the benevolence of just being and doing nothing, it then just assimilates itself. But then afterwards, you feel amazing. During, it's very difficult. So meditation is an awareness practice because it clears the storm. There's nice clear blue skies afterwards. And then you have the awareness to go, maybe I don't. There's like so many people I've taught to meditate that are smokers or addicted to sugar or anything. And they're like, or addicted to coffee. And they're like, but if I went to meditate, can I still have my coffee? And it's like, yeah, of course you can. But just know you'll naturally not want to have it after it. If you keep consistent with your practice, anything that's unhealthy in your life will naturally become irrelevant in your mind and you'll want to change and make your lifestyle healthier. You don't have to do anything. You just meditate and just watch what happens. And then people will be like, that's never going to happen. Within a week, within a day, they stop smoking, they stop drinking, they stop having their coffee because it just innately has an intelligence in there. So meditation is by far the most potent thing that someone can do. To properly learn to meditate, instead of I'll try meditation, become a meditator, learn with a teacher, and then you just meditate every single day. And that becomes the anchor back to awareness, back to presence, dissolve stress, and you make healthier decisions automatically.
For anybody watching, if you watching version of this and not listen, you will see the big smile on my face and the uncomfortable feeling that is arousing for me listening to Ryan explain this because this is something that I've struggled with. Like I'm just going to be real. Like the meditation I did
Yeah.
learn from you and practice for 30 days and found exactly what you said. Like sometimes really easy and sometimes super hard. But I love that metaphor about the scales because I'm a scale girl. Like, when I'm, training for the gym, and you're right, it is probably a beautiful barometer of where our mind is at. And so you're inspiring me to to try again. And I guess it's
Yeah.
the practice. Life is a journey and a practice, and you don't get it right every time at the gym or whatever is the thing that you love doing, whatever hobby you're doing. And so, it's inspired me to create that time. I love it in certain points, like in nature, and I try and meditate in the shower, like when I have my cold shower and breathe.
Mm.
But yeah, the actual sitting and portioning time into my day for it, something that I just personally,
It's difficult, right?
yeah,
And that's because you have a full life. And when someone lives a full life and they're going for it, arguably they need it more, but it's more difficult to fit in. When I started meditating and I was working 100 hours a week as a hardcore entrepreneurial workaholic, I'm not putting you in that same category, but that's where I was at when I started. And I was so angry. Whenever I meditated, I was just like I was not nice to be around because as soon as I had to sit down, if anyone's making noise, like I'm very different. I have a very different state of consciousness to when I started meditating 7 and a bit years ago. And I'd be like, guys, can you just shut up? I'm trying to meditate. I was like the most aggressive meditator because every time I meditated, all the stress that I was trying to run away from with my busyness and working was coming up. So I was so aggressive.
it is. I think maybe it's just the avoidance of me, like the avoider comes up. You don't need to do that. You're too busy.
Yeah, it's the fear. It's the fear consciousness because the fear consciousness wants to stay in control because it's trying to keep us safe. It thinks to surrender is to give up safety. And the only way that the ego believes, so an ego is another synonym for the head or fear consciousness or the devil or whatever we want to call this aspect of ourselves, the mind, is it wants to stay in control. It's kind of like I describe it like in those medieval movies where there's some triumphant up and coming next in line king for the throne or prince that's going to get the throne. But then there's the pasty evil brother that always tries to sabotage this like benevolent, like in the Gladiator movie. So it's like there's always some pasty, super white, dark black hair character that just is bitter and needs to control the power and give it to me. I need to be in control because I'm not loved. And why does he get all the attention? I should be king. And it's like clear that that person is scared and bitter and shadowy and all these things, but it really wants to be in control. He really wants to be in power. The actual heart or the benevolent prince isn't desperate for the fame, the glory, the kingship. He's more trying to serve the kingdom because he feels whole in who he is. Whereas that other insecure one, that fear-based scared one, scared brother, is desperate and he's the one that's going to try to stab the prince, kill the prince. But inevitably, in most stories, the so quote unquote good prince prevails. And that's the story of our humanity. Inevitably, if you stay on the path, the heart is more powerful than the head, even though the head is more intoxicating and very challenging to navigate. Like inevitably, the heart will prevail because the heart is the creator of all reality, including creating fear consciousness.
Yeah, it is. It's into our soul. You know, in a lot of modalities that I have learned, like the heart is just such a big part of it. And I love the fact that the way that you explain meditation, it encapsulates all those modalities. Like, you don't have to go for like a hypno session or inner child healing or blah, blah, blah. Like if you're meditating and playing with this practice and really sitting with it, like all of those things will fall away because the heart's coming through. That's what I'm hearing. Like the heart's coming through in these practices. Like
Yeah.
even in the uncomfortable parts, even in the challenges that are going to arise from meditating and the fear and that evil brother. You're reminding me of the Lion King when you were saying that. Like,
Yeah. Exactly. It's like that. Every story has like a version of that, right? And it's a metaphor. It's literally, it's symbolism.
of
So this again,
our internal struggle.
exactly.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah, but I would say that when we start meditating and we connect to the heart, that I mentioned that meditation's the easiest, the quickest way to get the biggest return, but it's not the only strategy. Some people connect to their heart and they evolve their consciousness without ever meditating. They do plant medicine, or they find other forms, or maybe they just do hypnotherapy, and there's lots of different ways to do it. Meditation is just direct connection to the spiritual heart, and it helps to dissolve stress and amplify awareness. But with that awareness, one that has the awareness can discern, okay, cool, I've got some real stuck energy here, or I'm really struggling at the moment. Not just going to meditate for everything. Meditation is a foundational piece. And then with that extra awareness, one might discern, I'm going to go do a hypnotherapy session, or I need to see a psychotherapist for a while because there's a lot of stuff coming up, or maybe I want to go and sit with plant medicine. But at least there's access to that inner compass, that inner whisper, and it's a lot clearer.
I was just looking at it from the reverse because I've done all of those things.
Yeah.
I've done the hypnotherapy and the plant medicine and the, all those and the coaching sessions and tapped into the heart at times. But
Yeah.
the meditation can help you access it at a, at a different level then.
I think the powerful thing about meditation is the consistency of the practice. It's kind of like a metaphor that's used in amongst meditation communities and teachers, is that it's like the process of dyeing cotton or dyeing fabric. Because the old way that they dyed fabric was you take this white cloth or like piece of fabric, you dip it in the dye bucket. And imagine we want to make this white scarf green like your beautiful jumper. And so what happens is first they dip the white fabric in the green dye bucket, and then it comes out, it's the exact color they want it to be. And then they hang it in the sun, and then the sun bleaches it and it dries it, and then it fades almost all the way back to white. Yeah. And then it looked, when it came out of the bucket, it was like kind of like if someone comes out of a meditation, they're like, oh, I feel so zen now, I feel so great. And then they get back into their life, and then they fade back to that disconnection. They forget, they're back in the unhealthy habits. But then what happens is later in the day, you do your second meditation, because Vedic meditation is a twice daily practice, which everyone feels nervous about doing, like before someone does a diet or they start cold showers or whatever. I can never do that twice a day. How could I fit it in? Everyone that learns fits it in, and everyone gets a benefit of this analogy, which is that you go back in the dye bucket, and even though it's almost faded all the way back to white, it's just a white with a little tinge of lime green where you can barely see it, then it goes completely green again when it's brought out of the dye bucket. It gets hung out, and then the sun strips it back. And then you do that enough times to the point that that piece of fabric becomes color fast, which means it can never fade. But that might take 10 years of practice. But if you do some kind of other modality, it's like hypnotherapy or whatever it is, you're doing a once-off session that's powerful because it's stripping. This is how I could have answered your initial question of how do we connect to the heart, where we address the things that are impeding our connection to it, or the blockages, the trauma, the hardship, which you have done so much of. And it's made a huge difference in the way that you access your heart. Because even on this call, you're very humble and you're very self-aware. So you're looking at the stretch points, but you're bringing a beautiful vulnerability and authenticity into this call that you didn't have as much access to 2 years ago. You've grown so massively over the last couple of years. It's just normalized because every day or every week and you do a new stretch point and a new healing session, and you're constantly evolving, that it's harder to see. But from my perspective, I haven't seen you for 6 months and you've grown so much. So yeah, you're welcome. But with the meditation, it's that twice a day back in the dye bucket. And then what happens? You dry it out on the line, it loses its color again back to a certain point. And then the point you need to go back in the dye bucket is what's called the dry and crispy feeling. So when someone's like meditates in the morning and they're going through the day and they're in their job or in their business or they're like managing the kids, and it's the stress just gets to that point where the energy is dropped a bit, and then they're starting to get fatigued and reach for the, like, open the fridge, where are the sugary treats, and I'm scrolling again. That's the dry and crispy feeling. That's when you know you need to go back in the dye bucket, have another meditation, reconnect back to source, the heart, the divine, and then regain that awareness and actually be able to have the free will to be in charge of your life and make the decisions that are going to be fulfilling for your life. So it's the power of the twice daily connection to source. That's what makes the meditation really, really powerful.
Hey everyone, Nichole here, and I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I just want to take a quick moment to talk to you all. If you're finding value in our conversations and loving the raw, honest dialogues we're having here, I've got a small favor to ask. This podcast is a passion project for me, and there's nothing I love more than bringing these stories and insights to you. So if you haven't already, would you consider subscribing to our show and leaving a review? It's completely free and it doesn't take much time, but it really helps us in two big ways. It's getting the podcast in front of more listeners, which keeps our community growing. It helps us attract more amazing guests, which means we give you more value in the episodes we bring to you. Just hit that subscribe button, drop us a review, and let's keep these conversations flowing.
Thank you for that reminder and that beautiful knowledge, because it does, it hits home, and so many times the dry and crispy, I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
The feeling comes up in the weeks or the days, and really powerful.
It's a really confusing path as well, because the more, and though I know that if you're listening to this, you're on this path and you've been doing beautiful work, whether you're like more towards the start of the journey or you've been doing it for decades, I know that you would have been doing the work. And what happens is the more work that we do, the more that God or the universe knows that our nervous system's got greater capacity to hold discomfort, hold the emotional unalchemized pain and trauma from the past. So we're like, okay, we're making progress. And then we get hit with bigger emotions, more painful life experiences, because the universe is trying to teach us to feel inherently whole no matter what happens. And so it continues to raise the stakes, continues to present us with life situations like, oh, how do you feel if I take away $30,000 and you lose all this money? What happens when you get a divorce? It's not just negative stuff that's being brought up, but the universe is like, can you still love yourself? Can you still love yourself? You've got all this emotion. Are you just going to think that you're an imposter and a failure? Or can you hold this? And it's going to keep testing you, like at the gym, let's raise the weights. So sometimes it can feel like, I've been doing all this healing, and why am I still going through this pain? Why do I still have these challenges? Because the universe is continuing to wring you out, so to speak, so that you can be connected to the purity of your heart.
Well, what a good reminder of all the challenges that we go through. It's like, you're feeling into my head and my soul right now, because the more work I feel like we do, the more challenges come up.
Yeah, same. It's the same for me. It's like we're all on this together.
Yeah, I've had it, but it's a beautiful reminder that these practices and these places, and I do feel that. I really do feel that when I connect back in to my heart and my love and source's love, that everything is okay. Like I am totally held. And so for everybody listening to this, I really feel cool that there's so many places and spaces that you can connect into, your heart, and find people that can help you encourage or support. And there's plenty of free stuff in on Spotify's and podcasts and meditations, but that innate connection, which a lot of us human beings shut off because of the pain, is where the pleasure is. Like it's where that found. And what a beautiful reminder of that. Stay the path, stay the journey, and trust.
It's so important, because the life starts giving us a very different set of circumstances when we start the spiritual path. Because what's happening is, before we start the spiritual path and we have an awakening, the universe is trying to show us that if you have all the externals that you want, or you're pursuing all these externals, these things that outside of yourself that you think are going to make you happy, they're not going to. It's kind of like a celebrity that's like an actor that spends their whole life working hard, going to do another audition, another movie. Now I'm a celebrity. Now I'm in Hollywood, starring in Hollywood movies. And you see that famous musicians and actors, actresses, when they make it initially, you see they start to get money, the thing that they think that is going to make them happy. They got the fame, they're in the magazines, they're on TV, they're on the Dave Letterman show and all this stuff. And then a few years after is when the drug abuse starts to happen. Because what happens is they were chasing this, they were climbing the mountain thinking the top's going to be amazing. And they get to the top and then they're like, oh, I feel the same way underneath. In fact, I feel worse because I've spent my whole life going to this point and it didn't make me happy. And then they look for the next high and the next high. And that's where they turn to alcohol, drugs, subscription pills, or they look for the bigger movie, more money, bigger house. And that's why there's so many people that are wildly successful that are going through this deep inner pain that's so hard that they're needing to find any compensating strategy. The more they've got to turn the dial up more than the average person often with the drugs and stuff, because the low is so big when they get to that point. And that's what I call the intolerable pain of separation. So up until that point, the universe has done its job for those people. It said, hey, it's not going to make you happy. Can you see that now? Now that you've got it all, can you see it? And then the journey shifts. That's an exaggerated way that people shift from a material life to an ethereal life or a spiritual life. But when you actually get on the spiritual path, the universe has a new mission. The universe is like, cool, now they know, at least they've had a taste that the universe, the external gratification is not ever going to really satisfy them. Now I can start to help them open up, wake up, connect to their hearts. And so the universe essentially, the quote is that the universe will withhold what you're attached to in order to teach you to love yourself without it. So if you're attached to that 10K likes or I'm finally going to be a successful business and my parents had said that I wasn't going to make it, I proved them wrong. Or you're attached to, I'm going to find that man, or I'm going to get that slim body, whatever that external thing is. If the universe was like, yeah, cool, here's your body, then it's not teaching you to be able to love yourself with the body the way that you don't want it to be, to love yourself while you're single, to love yourself wherever you're at on your journey. And so the universe, now that you're on the spiritual path, is concerned with you being fulfilled unconditionally, connecting to your heart. That's its main objective. Whereas before that, it's a lot easier to get the material results and stuff because the universe is trying to show you that with it, it ain't going to matter. It's not going to fulfill you. And so it switches objectives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Lots of wisdom bombs, lots of letter drop-ins. Yeah, I firmly believe that exactly what you said. You can be conditioned to believe that, that car, that, marriage, that house, the kids will make you happy. But until you start, looking within and finding what innately loving yourself. I remember doing all those things at a super young age and then getting there and going, well, I'm still not fucking happy, now what?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like a lot of us have been conditioned that way to think, the partner, the kids, the house, the job, the overseas trips, whatever it is going to make you happy.
Yeah.
We're missing that huge point of connecting to ourselves and our heart to find what that is for each and every one of us.
Yeah.
Beautiful reminder to really tap in, and we forget and re-remember as well.
Yeah. This is why community is so important. You running this podcast is so valuable. You doing the amazing coaching that you do, so valuable. This is why I'm mentioning that the universe has a bit of a different motive for the listeners here and myself and yourself. It can be very difficult because not to say it in an egocentric way, but we're really in the 1%. It's like less than 1% of the population have kind of discovered the deeper truths of life. And so if you're surrounded by the other 99% of equally beautiful people, just at a different stage on their journey, it can be very challenging because everything that the environment reflects is externally based. You walk down the street, you'll go on your phone, on the laptop, in your house, with your siblings, with with your family, with your friends, with the community, with just movies. Everything is centered around building an external reality. And so it can be very difficult if we're not constantly around people that remind us, hey, you're doing beautiful here. You really are tapping into something special here. And this is actually why I went to India to teach Vedic meditation versus, because I was already teaching meditation for the 5 years earlier than that, which I was calling core meditation, which was an identical technique, but just not under the organization of Vedic meditation. And the reason that I went there is because I realized that I didn't have the community that people that learned meditation needed to be able to stay in touch with each other and actually remain consistent through accountability in the environment. I need to kind of surrender my own ego of like, this is Ryan's technique, the core meditation. And I went, if I really want people to transform, like I taught you core meditation, you don't have access to weekly group meditations where people go on and they're reminded to stay consistent and explained what's going to come up and why it comes up. Whereas Vedic meditation, there's other techniques as well, like transcendental meditation. There are thousands of teachers around the world. So if you move to Stockholm in Sweden, there's a Vedic meditation community. Like when I teach you Vedic meditation, which I already said I will, you could, yeah, you can move anywhere in the world and you'd have a community. And so when I learned to meditate, I would be motivated initially when I was listening to the teacher, because everything that the teacher said for me, the truths hit deep because they were actual deep, real truths, not just excitement of a seminar where someone hyped me up, but my soul goes, yes. But then I would forget because my environment was saying everything other than that. And then within like a couple of months, I'd forget. But then I'd go to another meditation retreat. And because I did a series of advanced Vedic wisdom courses, every 2 months I was going to a new retreat. But between when I just finished the retreat and the 2 months, I would forget it all. I would just keep my practice going, but holding on by a thread. And then I'd rock up at the next retreat and the teacher would share this spiritual wisdom. And I'd be like, how did I forget that wisdom? Like, I've been so uninspired with my practice. I've been all on the edge of falling off the bandwagon. How would I possibly forget the power and potency of these truths? But every time for multiple years across a 2-month period, my environment would get the better of me and I'd lose that inspiration. So it was only by the environments and the community that kept me consistent. And so I was like, I'm not even giving my same students that opportunity. So that's why I went.
Well, I'm excited. I hope we are inspiring others to look to meditation, to look within, to find a teacher. Because I feel exactly the same way. Like, when you speak the truth about meditation, if I hadn't had the awareness and hadn't done personal development and gone through some of these modalities and felt that soul and felt that heart connection, I wouldn't be so drawn to it. And every time I'm just like, oh my God, that's what my nervous system is needing. I am acting with my head in certain parts of my life, or I am forgetting some of these innate truths, and I'm not making time for my own practice outside of a coaching session or whatever else. And so you really are inspiring me, Ryan. So thank you for reminding, and I am.
You're welcome.
Super excited. Which I have never been. Have I ever said I'm excited?
She never said it.
Never ever. I'm like, oh God, you want to teach me. Actually, and you know what it is? It is that community, like connection.
Yeah.
Highest values. So thank you for being a permission slip and finding that and finding the piece that wasn't gelling for all of us, because I really do believe that community connection piece and dropping in with like-minded souls is going to be so goddamn powerful. So I'm excited. Thank you for finding out and bringing it to us. I'm happy.
You're welcome.
We'll share it underneath here for any listeners that want to learn from Ryan as well. And however that starts expressing,
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw something at you on the spot, which you can sit with and decide whether you want to say yes or not. But I would totally, if you have enough people in your community that want to learn, I would fly to Adelaide, stay at your place, and then put on a course for any of the community members that are in. And they're like, yeah, I'd love to learn.
Let's do it. We've got 150 kids coaches now. 150.
Holy moly.
I'm sure, and I don't know how many in Adelaide, but I definitely know. And for those that don't know, I don't even know if you know, we're moving. So we're going to have a really big, beautiful house that we can.
Holy moly. Congratulations.
Yes.
I was also bringing up that community piece to recognize the community you've already built. It's not just for meditation, but you have a community with all the healing modalities you do and your embodiment. Just because the meditation thing's been a stretch for you, it is challenging, but you've been doing the most amazing work, Nichole, and you give that community that I'm speaking about to others. You do that. You are that same champion I'm talking about for all of these people that are listening to this. He's such an inspiration. I just want to, that's also why I was bringing it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I feel that. It's not a needed thing, but it is nice to have that reflection, and I feel that in my heart. So thank you for seeing me.
You're welcome.
I'm excited. Let's start planning that. So guys, anybody that is in my community, we'll definitely have Ryan across here. He honestly one of my absolute favorite coaches. And for those who don't know, by the way, the Kids Coach certification program, the kids coaching modality and my tapping into what my passion and purpose is wouldn't have actually been created. Well, maybe it would have, but wouldn't without Ryan. Like Ryan helped me go through a deep practice of finding out what my purpose and serving was and where my nervous system and soul lit up, and bringing the experiences and how it downloads through my system to kids is what ultimately it is my purpose. And it was in that session 3 or so years ago. Started this, and here we are now.
The thing that was challenging for us was that you were so passionate about so many things because you got such a big heart. So you wanted to help so many different people in all these different ways. And I'm sure you still do. So the difficult thing for us and me coaching you at that point was like being able to distill it down to your biggest love, even though you love everybody and you want to support everybody. That was just the thing that your heart most wanted to do.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I still love it. When kids pick me and my other coaches, like it's just phenomenal. And bringing this work in whatever modality to the youth is innately what's in my heart. The reason for this podcast is there's so much more, and I really thank you for your vulnerability and your shares, and perhaps we'll have you on again. But I love coaches that are really empowered and are just speaking their authentic truth, because it's not just always the easy stuff. It's not always the glory reel where it's like, hey, everything in my life is amazing. I really wanted people to be able to have a point where they can hear other things as well and know what goes on behind the scenes and the struggles and challenges, and perhaps have that like, I'm not alone. And that's what this. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek in the Nichole show, because I believe that it's not in my business. Everybody can collab and network and love and serve each other. There's enough clients for us all. So this is my, let's go behind the scenes and unravel the stuff that's not normally spoken about. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here.
Yes, you're so welcome.
Is there anything else that you would love to share before we wrap up today? Is there anything else that your heart?
Oh, I'm going to do a quick tune in just to see what my heart's got to say. Yeah, I'll kind of open a loop and then I'll give something within that loop, which is essentially the two things that I'm most passionate about in the whole world are meditation and a practice that I teach called the Heart's Prayer.
Oh, please, yeah.
And the Heart's Prayer is 4 heart truths that I've kind of distilled from all the searching and investing. I've spent over $800,000 in personal development over the last 15 years. So I've kind of done some pretty serious seeking because I needed that support for myself, and kind of amalgamated everything into these 4 truths. And I won't go through all the truths in this exact moment, but if I do go over to Adelaide, I'm also happy just to do a free community event teaching the Heart's Prayer. But the one that I felt really caught in my heart when I tuned in then to share is that who and where you are is perfect. And this is a truth. This is a heart truth. And said in first person, who and where I am is perfect. And that is really the truth. God doesn't look through the eyes and say, oh my gosh, you still haven't lost that weight? Huh. Have I slept? Have you not taken your life seriously? What a screw up. Or the universe doesn't go, you're still in that job? Or you got debt? You're not making the most of the one life I've given you. This is not how God thinks. This is how people that are scared and insecure project that the world works. You should regret it if you're not giving every last breath to this life to hit your potential. And although it can be inspiring to feel into what our potential is, where we are in this exact moment, every single thing about us, our physical body, our psychology, our level of motivation, everything about our circumstances, where we are in our relationship, where we are in relation to our purpose or our business or our finances, is to the cent, to the hair follicle, perfect. And that is the truth. God makes no mistakes. God didn't sleep in and forget about you. Where you are is perfect, because the purpose of life is to learn to be more and more fulfilled. And through that, guys, everything that happens is a teaching to support us to live more in our heart, to live with more fulfillment. When we're looking through the lens of fear consciousness and we're looking outside of ourselves, we can point out all the screw ups and the ways that it's not meant to be the way it is. But God designed it, everyone to have this unique storyline, this unique movie plot of what has to unfold to learn to love ourselves unconditionally. And wherever you are in that journey, the lows and everything are very strategically placed there to teach you to love yourself exactly where you are. If you are overweight, broke, mistreating your partner, whatever it is, you're exactly where you're meant to be, and you are perfect, perfect, perfect. That's not me. I'm saying it, but it's not me. That's a truth from God. That is a truth, that you are perfect, that where you are is perfect and who you are is perfect. So I just wanted to leave everyone with that, because that's a one that if you could feel it in your body, you can free yourself from the stories of the devil.
Thank you for that. I felt it. For those that need to re-listen, rewind it a couple of seconds and re-listen to it, because yeah, we are all perfect. And thank you for reminding us to feel that in our heart.
You are so welcome. I'm so grateful for the chance to be here. And I'm so grateful for all of you that have chosen to listen to this. Thank you so much.
And we will have all of Ryan's bits and pieces, and you can follow me on socials for when he will be here in Adelaide. That is a definite in the future now. And I love you, so thank you so much for being here, Ryan.
I love you so much. Thank you for having me. And I love you all for listening.